You know, that.
You still have that cough?
It's back.
It's back.
It's back. No, I'm.
I'll take that. Don't go farther. Don't sit down. The camera's right behind you.
Oh,
Sorry. Sorry. It says that it's alone with nothing is love and sacrifice. But in every human being's life, there is a moment. So it's love on top of your heart. Falls in. Heart heals. It's impermanent. As important as the healing is. The love is still there. It's a very good judge of truth.
Yeah.
The seeds of life eternity. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can invite the pallbearers to come with me towards the rear of the funeral coach. The voice cries out, "What shall I cry? Flesh is grass, and the beauty is like the flower of the field. Grass withers, the flowers fade. The wind of the Lord blows upon it, and surely our people are as grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God endures forever." בצור צמים האלופים כל דרכיו משפט, אין אלמונה ואין ערב צדיק וישר, בצור צמים בקדושה. אני אומר לו מה פשוט מצא תמיד בחיה, מוריד שאול ויעל בצור צמים בכל מעשה, מי יאמר לו מה תעשה, צדיק אתה אדוני, למעט חוויה, אשר בידיך תיקון כל רוחות, חלילה לך זיכרוננו למחות, ויהיו נא עיניך ברחמים עלינו בזכות. God, you are sure our immovable rock. Your work is upright. What is that you do? Your dealing in life and death is just, and every soul is within your trust. Please be seated. Shiviti Adonai, Nagzi Tamim, Imimini Bahaino, Lachen Samach Libi, Viagel Kvodi Af Sari Ishkon Levata. כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול, לא תיתן חסדך לראות שחר. תודיעני אורך חיים, ואשמחות את פניך, מות בנייניך נצח. I've set the eternal always before me. God is at my side, and I will not be moved. My heart exults, my soul rejoices. My being is now secure. You will never abandon me to death. You will not let your faithful ones see destruction. You have shown me a path of life, and your presence brings fullness of joy for enduring happiness. It's your gift. Death has taken our beloved Bob Rubin. Our friends and my family grieve in our darkened world. In our silence, we have lamentation, in our tears, loneliness. Lost in sorrow, may we find the presence of loving friends. Hear us, O God. Be with us. For Bob's life united us, his love united us in life. And death cannot sever it. We shared his companionship along life's path, and that companionship continues now in the tenderness of memory. For the gift of his heart, his mind, his generous spirit, his beautiful voice, all these things which brought us such joy and happiness, they are now a most precious remembrance. And for all of these things and more, we give thanks to God. And we give thanks to you, you who are gathered here to honor him today, for everything you have done for this family, for my family, for everything you will do for us in the coming days and months and years. We thank you from the depths of our hearts. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred text, that it may bring us ever new messages of the nearness of God, that it may tell us of our kinship with our Creator, who is close in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, and in life as in death. Psalm 15. Adonai, mi yagor ba'ohalecha, mi yishkon bahar kodshecha. Adonai, who may abide in your house, who may dwell upon your holy mount? Those who are upright,
who do justly, who never fail to speak the truth within their hearts, those who do not slander others, nor wrong them, or bring shame upon them, those who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere you, those who give their word, and come what may, never retract it. Those who are honest in business, who do not exploit others, who never take bribes. Those who live in this way shall not be shaken. Psalm 23. Adonai roi lo echsar. Bin od deshe batseni al me muchotin haledi. Nafshi yoshve v'nachne v'galet tzedek ma'an shema. Ga ki elech v'ga'al tzamavet lo yirara. Ki ata imati. Shivtecha v'shantecha chema yinchumeni. Ta'orech lefanai shofan neged sararai. Shanta b'shemen roshi kosi revayai. Ach tov v'chesed yerdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamin. To read the English. Pleasure to invite Bob's beloved granddaughter, in not law but close enough, Matthew's partner, Reverend Aisha, to share these sacred words.
God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever.
To share personal reflection, Bob's son, Michael Rubin.
Some are given only a single day, or a week, or a month to live. But Dad was given more than 89 years. Time to find the love of his life, a partner in everything they did. Time to build a life and a family with her. Time to love and support his children and their families. Time to cherish his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Time to pursue his talents and interests, to travel and experience the world. Time to leave the world a better place by the way in which he led his life. And now we have been given another day to treasure the time that we had with him, to honor his memory by practicing the values that he instilled in us, to remember the many ways that he has touched our lives.
I ask that you repeat this refrain with me. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. The blowing of the wind, the chill of winter, we remember. And the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember. The rustling of leaves, the beauty of autumn, we remember them. The beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember. we are lost or sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for he is now a part of us, as we remember. Our rabbis teach us that there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But they emphasize that the crown of a good name excels above them all. The book of Ecclesiastes says, Tov Shem Meshemen Tov, a good name is treasured more than the richest oil. Wealth and health, life itself, each pass away in time. But a good name lives forever. And it is in this view that our Talmud teaches us that monuments do not need to be raised for the righteous, because their deeds are themselves memorials. The righteous are remembered and revered for the kindness that they have shown, the love that they have given, as they are shining examples of what it means to be a mensch. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai Natan va'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. God has given, and God has taken. And blessed be your name, O God. As an ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death, sorrow, these are not strangers to us, but the centuries have taught us that that good name endures beyond the grave. And so with Job, we say, Adonai Natan. God, you have given. You gave us Bob. He will never be forgotten. And for all that was good and enduring in his life, we give you the deepest thanks of our hearts. The Adonai lakach. And God, you have also taken. So we pray for the strength to take our broken hearts and turn them into a place where we can find healing, love, comfort, friendship. So we say, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. Blessed is your name, O God, now and forever. We take a moment for silent prayer, for silent memory. May these words of our mouths, may these meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. O God, our strength, our Redeemer.
Rabbi K.
Thank you.
This evening, as the sun sets, we welcome the holiday of Shavuot. Like all Jewish holidays, it has multiple meanings. It is the culmination of the 49 days since Passover. It is a symbolic wandering of the years in the desert towards Mount Sinai. We are a people who are always on a quest. And for Moshe Shavuot is Zman Matan Toratenu, the time of giving of our Torah. These three words, Zaman, Matan, and Toratenu, the time of giving of our Torah, is how we should understand and embrace Bob's 89, almost 90 years of life. When the Hebrew word Zaman is used, often in text it refers to an appointed time or a sacred time. The word Matan is the word giver. It denotes that one gives of their truest intention without hesitation and without seeking something in return. And Torah Tenu is understood that Torah is given to all. Torah is not given to an individual or a select group of people. Rather, Torah as an instruction, a way of living a good life that has meaning and makes a difference. Bob was a man who understood and embraced the sacredness of time, especially time with his family. Bob was always a giver, generous giver of all that he had to offer. And Bob had his Torah to share with us, and all of our lives are enriched because of his Torah. The Torah that he lived by, the Torah that he taught, and the Torah that he instilled within us about how to live in this world and how to make a difference in this world. Every year when Shavuot approaches, I finally recall a movie from 1981, History of the World, Part 1, created and starring Mel Brooks. In an early scene, Mel Brooks is portraying Moses as he descends from Mount Sinai with 3 stone tablets bearing the 15 commandments. All of a sudden, Mel Brooks stumbles, drops the 3rd set of tablets, and looks up with the eyes that only Mel Brooks could have and says, "Oops, 10 is enough." Over the years as a rabbi, teaching this in a wide array of settings, I've often shown this video clip to my students and asked, what do you think was written on that 3rd tablet? What were the other 5 commandments that were dropped? And I'm always surprised by the wisdom of my students, teens or adults, as they shared insightful and thoughtful responses. Their observations are often reflective of what is going on either in their personal lives or what's going on in the world around them. You might ask, why would I choose History of the World Part 1 as the frame for Bob's eulogy? Those of you who know that he was a lifelong learner. His mind was always active. He loved history. In his later years, he listened to the great courses and would often share new learning with our family. And Bob loved movies. However, I'm not certain that Bob ever watched this one. And so as his son-in-law, I'm taking a little bit of rabbinic liberty. You see, Bob understood me. We had an almost 40-year relationship this coming July. I arrived in 1983 as the young rabbi, and for the last 30 years as his son-in-law who loved him so deeply. So I ask you, what do you think were Bob's 5 commandments? What would he have inscribed on that 3rd set of tablets? I could end the hesped right now with the words, all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. The first would be, love your family. And with that, I could be done. However, stopping there would not be giving him the rightful honor he deserves today, as we say a final shalom. Born and raised in Denver, except for a few short years in Wyoming, Denver was always his home. Born on August 24th, 1993 to J. Julius Rubin and Bessie J. Mandel, he was one of 2 children. He had a beloved sister, Joni Kupitz, and brother-in-law Jerry, who also lived in Denver, both of blessed memory. And Bob was one of the few remaining members of this longtime family. His mother, Babe, was the youngest of 13 children. She became an aunt immediately upon her birth. Bob would often share with us stories of early Denver and streets that didn't cross through Colorado Boulevard or Monaco Street. The world ended in Hamden. And he would talk about working on the family farm, his chores in the summer. And Bob was a graduate of his high school and a proud bachelor's degree from Denver University. Bob was extremely close with his parents, his cousins, and his extended cousins. As I said, family was the prime driver. And many of you over the years have heard various versions of how Bob and Merle met. Most know the gist that Bob, at the ripe age of 16, he had a newly received driver's license and was leaving an AZA meeting on the west side when he spotted his cousin Berta assembled with a group of other teen girls leaving their BBG meeting. He innocently, or not so innocently, asked if anyone needed a ride home. A very young, maybe a 15-year-old, Merle Goldstein, seized the opportunity as she was not going to let this tall and handsome and very good-looking guy get away. Of course, she said yes. Off they rode, and a few days later, a boat ride in City Park, and Bob thought all was good, and he continued to call. However, when he called again and introduced himself in his warm and inviting voice that so many of us know, Merle's grandmother hung up the phone. Bob didn't know at that moment in time there had been a death in the family. And of course, Bob and Merle were both persistent. And this romance, their lifelong journey, has continued for 70 years of marriage, thick and thin, joys and sorrows. Mark, their eldest son, his death in 1980, buried not far from here, left an indelible mark on their hearts and souls. As we all know, no parent should ever have to bury a child. A death of a child can often destroy a marriage. However, Mark's death kept them close in their pain and love. They continued to build their tenderness with one another, along with Michael and Lori. In reflecting back on their marriage, Merle and Bob shared their wisdoms and insights with us, their children, Michael and Lori, and us, the in-law children. Patty, Michael's wife, who is in Boston, would love to be with us today, but waiting their first grandchild, Caitlin and Matthew, so we wish them Shantova good luck. And myself, we were never really in-law children to them because Merle and Bob always loved us as their own. And they taught us about the challenges and struggles, and mostly about the blessings of making family always first. As I said a moment ago, as much as Bob's 5 commands was family first, for him it was always Merle first. That is the absolute truth. There is nothing he would not do for you, Merle, even when he could be strong-willed, not in total agreement, or even if he didn't want to do something, he would do it for you. You were his only love, and every act demonstrated his love, and all of us and all your families know, our family know, that his love for you was a covenantal love that was always in place. We know of your breaking heart. Your tender and loving care these past years was part of your covenantal relationship with him. In conversations with our family, Michael and Patty, Caitlin, Matt, Matthew, and Aisha, all living in Boston, who are so often in Denver visiting, celebrating together at family events, or reaching out with daily or weekly Zoom calls, or the local clan, Lori and Stephanie, Sam, Alyssa, Lena, CJ, Joe, Taylor and Trey, little Eli and Sella. We all learned about the value of family from Bob and from Merle. Lori and Michael gathering at the family dinner last night, you shared stories about one another and the respect that you had for your dad, and how your lives are enriched so much because of who your dad was and the values that he instilled within you that guided you, and now your families, and now the next generation. Michael said sharing the value of commitment to do what one was doing the best has always influenced him professionally, as a son, as a husband, father, and soon to be grandfather. And Lori shared, like many people here, that if you first met Bob, you encountered his gruff kind of exterior, not always the most friendly, embracing, and welcoming person until you got to know him. And then you experienced a man who had a loving heart, a loving soul, and was just as precious as they come. In these conversations with those who married into the family, all have said that Bob and Merle were role models, always being open and always treating anyone into the family as family. And Michael, your frequent in-person calls, your daily calls, you take on so many of the tasks of being gentle and kind to your dad, your unending list, your ability to be present demonstrated your lifelong love for your dad and your respect for your dad, your thankfulness for your dad, for the wisdom and insults instilled within you by your dad. And Patty, as you're listening, you were blessed to have parents of blessed memory in guiding you in your life. I know of your unconditional love over the years from Merle and Bob, and you have fostered, built, and created and sustained your own unique relationship with them. And Bob always looked forward to conversations with you in your home, at their home, or in family trips. The two of you found this intellectual kindness with one another, a gentleness, and we know that this is a loss for you too. My prayers are with you on his loss. And Lori, my wife, what can I say to you? You are Daddy's little girl. My heart breaks for you as we watched him decline over a period of time. You always put your dad and your mom first. You always made certain they had what they needed so they could be independent as possible. Your daily calls and visits afforded them a quality of life, a sense of independence, even when they argued with you and argued with us. You made sure that everything was okay. And every time you entered in the room, your dad's eyes lit up. Your dad was also your buddy, your gentle and wise counsel. And I know that you and I, all of us relied on him for his wisdom and never-ending love. Our Shabbat dinner table will always have an empty spot, and we will miss him. And I know that all of Bob's grandchildren have a loving and caring and unique relationship with him and with Merle. You're truly blessed to have such caring and loving and wonderful grandparents as role models for how to live life and how to be in relationship with someone you love. To be in relationship with someone you love. And Stephanie and Caitlin, Sam, Alyssa, Matt, Lena, CJ, Matthew, Joe, Taylor, and Trey, you are blessed. Grandpa was in constant and ongoing contact with all of you. He cherished time in person, phone and Zoom calls, family celebrations, weddings, birthdays, and vacations. He knew about and took pride in your accomplishments. And so many of these moments together are captured with photos on the kitchen refrigerator or on the fireplace. He loved all of you, and you gave him lots to well to take pride about. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment and mention Lena, how she took on weekly grocery shopping during COVID, even when Grandma insisted she could shop on her own. You were there 2 or 3 times for breakfast, hanging with them, and the three of you fought over who got what section of the morning newspaper. I know that your heart is hurting, and Mama and I thank you for the tender care that you showed you grandparents. As you know, that Bob was always learning. Bob was committed to seeing knowledge around him, teaching at Metro State, Colorado School of Mines, and at Ollie in his retirement. So his second commandment would be always learn, always be open to new beginnings. Bob's third commandment would be get out and see the world. One of Bob's greatest joys was planning trips, the details, the sights, the landmarks, to see the history, to see firsthand. Bob and Merle loved to travel to Israel, Europe, throughout the United States. Family car trips, they traveled with friends on cruises and adventures by yourselves. And they were longtime members of Ports of Call and so many family trips, celebrating family birthdays. Here's a family secret. If you had a birthday that ended in 0, you knew that you were going on a family trip and it was going to be planned and we would all be together. And the world was a palette for Bob as a photographer. A highlight from every trip was capturing a unique moment, a backdrop, historical location with your unique photographer's eye. We often joke that Merle and Bob needed to build another room at their Lighton Street residence, as every wall has a Bob signed photo in the gallery. When you join us during Shiva, take a look and admire his talents. These pictures will serve for us as special moments in time. Bob's fourth commandment would be make a difference in this world. Big or small, go out and do something. Give of your time and energy. Make the world a better place by your deeds and actions. Bob and Merle were committed to an active Jewish life. They were early founders of the Denver Reconstructionist community. And the teachings of Rabbi Kaplan, I think, embedded within Bob his desire to make a difference. He spent time with Recycle Now, reading for the blind and dyslexic, volunteer teaching in the elementary schools, and serving on the boards of the Synagogue Council, JCC Federation, and other agencies. And now the fifth and final commandment. Enjoy a good meal and a bottle of red wine. Bob loved a good meal and a good bottle of red. You had two options with Bob, and I often preferred the first. One, you were blessed if you were consumed one of his outstanding home-cooked meals. We often said, why should we ever go out and eat when Bob could cook a meal? And I still savor the lamb that he used to make. And Bob used to love to bake. He had a sweet tooth even right before he died, eating a piece of chocolate cake. Bob could never say no to a good dessert, especially if it contained chocolate. And he always had this sweet tooth. A good bottle of red was always to be found at one of his meals. And I can hardly think of a time at dinner at Bob and Merle's house when two glasses were not set at the dinner table. It was their tradition. White for Merle and red for Bob. Red for Merle as she had her second glass with chocolate. The kitchen and the outdoor grill was Bob's workshop. It was really his man cave. And Bob always enjoyed a good meal in town. He knew all the local restaurants and the best place to eat before Denver underwent so many changes. A night out with Merle and Bob was a highlight for them. Going to eat before theater was an essential part of an evening's experience. So these are Bob's 5 commandments. These are the ones that I think that we would find written on that third tablet. I ask you to think, what would you think Bob would written on his tablet? In closing, at the end of Grace After Meals, the Birkat Hamazon, we say the words Nar Hayiti V'gam Zakanti V'lo Ra'iti Tzedek Ne'ezav. Roughly translated means, I was once young, and now that I am older and wiser, I have never seen one in need of bread. I've never seen a hungry person. If we read the text as stated, we know that it's not accurate. However, if we read this by the way Bob lived his life, we know this is a statement of Bob's life. Let us understand these words of thanksgiving of Birkat Hamazon as the following. I was once young. I became older and wiser with life experiences. And because of what I did, because of who I was, by my deeds and my actions, none are hungry because I didn't do my small part to make a difference. Bob Rubin, Raphael Abram, has done his part. He has sustained us. He has fed us. He has given us our meaning. And we offer him our blessings to rest in shalom, to rest in eternal peace. And let us say, Amen.
One might disagree with the rabbi, but there is a caveat to that 5th commandment, which those who went out for meals with Bob knew quite well, which is that his plate was his plate. No, he didn't want to try what you ordered. If he wanted it, he would have ordered it. And no, he didn't want to try what you had either, for the same exact reason. I was here last week, and I got to say goodbye to my grandfather. My community, my Jewish community in Toronto, has a very good problem. Friday nights, it's hard to get people into shul because so many people are at home with their grandparents having dinner. I understand my people in Toronto pretty well because that was my life growing up too. Friday night, without fail, Grandma and Grandpa at our place, or sitting around the table at theirs. We were going to the airport. I stopped in to say goodbye. And I knew it would be the last time I would see him. We held hands. He looked me in the eye. He said, Sam, take good care of people. And I can do that because of him. I can do that because of you. A good example you set for me. A good name you leave behind. I love you. And I would ask that all gathered here please rise. The words of El Ma'alirah, we invite the compassionate Spirit of God. I'm not familiar with the custom here. So now we have to begin the burial. So we rise as we begin the burial. Tradition teaches us that as Jews we bury with our hands and the shovel, fully present, an act of total love, an act of kindness that can never be repaid. Every other action in this world, one can keep a tally and hope or think that this might come back to me somewhere down the line. This act of goodness will be repaid some way. But to bury the dead is selfless kindness and selfless love. We learn it from our tradition, for when Moses dies alone upon the mountain, God buries Moses with his own hands. And so we do our best to take on this act of love, to embody the best of our divinity, to show selfless kindness for those we love best. Fourth, invite the mourners first. Place a shovel first. Righteousness goes before you. The glory of God.
Yes. CJ, yeah. I know, I'm serious. But sorry.
Thank you. We rise as we are able. El Malachami Shofin Bamromi Amsem Nuchan Nefuna Tachat Kanfe Hashchina Im Kedoshim Utorim Zohar Rakim Azrim Nishma Raphael Avram Ben Yehuda Basher Shin Sheholach Le'olamot Va'arachamihim Nasirehu B'seter Knafav Le'olamim Vayitzror B'yitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato V'mayhu Nechalato Yanuach B'Shalom Mamash Kavod Nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Bob Rubin, who has entered into eternity. God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God, you are his inheritance. May you rest in peace. We say together. Amen. Gadal, Dash, Alma, Dibara, Frute, Biamli, Malfute, Chayefol, Yomethol, Bahaye, the full Beit Israel, Ba'adallah, Bisman, Kali, Amen. Yehei Rabban, Barach, Le'olam, Le'olam. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitfa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitaseh. Yitadar, Yitaleh, V'yithalal, Shmei, V'yisha, B'richu. Le'ela, Mikol, Birchata, V'shirata. Tush V'chata, V'nechamata. Da'amiran, V'alma, V'ru, Amen. Yehei Shlama, Rabba, V'yishmaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom v'ramah, u'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, Amen. May God grant peace to those who mourn, comfort to the bereaved amongst us. Together we say, Amen. I ask that those who are gathered here to support our mourners, some of you stay behind and some of you come over here to form an aisle so they can walk between you. This aisle we right to this way so they can go back to the Please repeat after me. May God console you
May God console you
with all who mourn
with all who mourn.
in Zion and Jerusalem. מקום זינתכם אתכם בתוך שמר עמודי ציפון בירושלים. Now peace. Now.
Really? She wants to tell. No, I know. See the contrast? Yes. Yeah.
I got the number and I still couldn't find the number. This is LA.
All right. All right.
That was my, yeah, we. Retired. I didn't retire, my limbs became understood. Well, physically wrong.
Yeah.
That's one of the states.
Yeah. And then he has
Should be going a lot too.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad I finally got to see you. Like I said, I think that. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah.
I know that job. I knew a guy who had that job.
Her niece has it.
No, I get that.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Just there's the old executive record. Or a daddy still.
Yeah, yeah.
They got